Hi, my name's Catherine Hawes and I'm the principal at Digital Age Lawyers. So you've decided to separate. Now let's talk through your options. One of the first options is actually what we encourage the most within our law firm, is that the parties consent. Now consent can look two ways. One of the first ways, and you've probably heard of this, is something called a binding financial agreement. Now a binding financial agreement only deals with property. It cannot deal with any parenting or child support issues. So what a binding financial does between the parties is you work out the assets on one side, the liabilities on the other, and then you come to a pool of money. Then it's about separating that pool of money and dividing it via a percentage. Whether it's 50-50, 60-40, the parties determine what they perceive as fair. Once you've done that much, you'll then need to put it into a formal document called a binding financial agreement, and then both parties will need to go and seek legal advice. The reason you need independent legal advice for this document is to ensure that you understand that even though you've come to agreement that you may think is fair, there may be other things you're entitled to, there may be other assets that you haven't had regard to, and this is why it's really important to undertake that independent legal advice. So once you've gone off and got that, it actually then is like a contract between you and your separating partner. What that means is it's not registered anywhere, it is just a document between the two of you, and you can then split the assets. It's acceptable by banks if you're refinancing. It's acceptable for stamp duty exceptions. So it does work, but it's really important that parties understand their legal rights, because if you just do it without that, 6 months, a year later, you might find yourself in the family court because the other party thinks that they were hard done by, or they should have been entitled to more. So that's a binding financial agreement. There is also another one which is called consent orders. Now the benefit of consent orders is A, they can deal with property and parenting. So you can actually have the one document dealing with both. The other advantage is that it actually is put before the court. Doesn't mean there's a hearing. All we do is just file it. Then what happens is the court will stamp it as fair, and then you can implement those orders. So in a way it's a bit more protection, but if there's not a lot of assets, binding financial can work as well. So if you have decided to separate and you are in agreement, please call the numbers you see on the screen and we can guide you through the process.